Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, and today we're picking up where we left off on the Mt Selwyn summit up here, heading back down the summit track and then back sort of northwest on the Mt Selwyn road to get onto the Selwyn Track, also known as Canyon Road, heading southwest down here and on to the start of the Humffray River Track right here. I've never driven this section of the Humffray before, so nice change. So we've got 9 kilometres there of the Humffray River Track before we even see a river. Another 3 k's before we get onto the Water Spur track where that joins, which is where I've normally gotten on and off the Humffray River Track. So all this northern section, first time driving it, past the river shelter and then down to the start of the Hart Spur Track, which is not in today's video. I've cut this one a little bit short and will be in the next video. So today's video wraps up at the bottom of the Hart Spur Track at 5 o'clock with the Hart Spur still to go. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, picking up where we left off at the last one on top of Mt Selwyn. How good is that view? Always love getting up there on the Selwyn summit, one of the best views in the high country. So from here we're heading back down the Selwyn summit track onto Mt Selwyn Road, then heading to the right on to head down Canyon Road. We're going to head across to the northern end of the Humffray River Track, which I've never done before. I've always gotten on and off at Water Spur. So heading back down off the summit track here, we've got these wombat holes to contend with. They don't quite show up on camera, but if you watch the movement of the car, it kind of speaks volumes. Twin locked vehicles or vehicles with really good traction control don't have a lot of issues, but if you're like me in the 76 that's still running open diffs, getting up there was kind of challenging. And yeah, as I said, it's not too far along the Mt Selwyn Road before we take a left onto Canyon Road, or the Selwyn Track as it's variably known on different maps. So it just depends exactly what edition of what map you've got as to how this track is actually named. Didn't look like it got a lot of traffic, this track, but having said that, it was still in pretty good nick. Always the ever-present fallen trees in the high country that tend to be a hazard. Mostly though, this first part of the track was just a nice scenic drive. You know, it could be a 2-wheel drive track really, the Selwyn Track. One of those little connector tracks that are up around this part of the high country that I don't think any of us had ever actually driven this before, and Luke has been coming up to the high country a lot longer than I have. Just goes to show you can still find little tracks that are perhaps lesser known. And as you guys know, this was in January 2024, this trip, so in summer, not too wet, the odd soft spot like this around, but nothing to be terribly concerned about. Much to our surprise, this connector track, Selwyn Track or Canyon Road, actually turned into a bit of a ridgeline track partway along, which was kind of cool. There were some nice views actually to be had from this track, and it was quite unexpected. None of us really knew what this track was going to be like, so this is a nice little bonus. You get some glimpses of those through the tops of the trees there, but from in the car you can obviously see a lot more. This shot gives you a nice idea of how the track works its way along this ridge line. There's a few open sections like this, a lot of bracken fern around. But yeah, just a really nice drive, and of course what goes up must come down, and we know we're heading to the Humffray River Track, so that's going to be down in the valley and beginning our descent down now. You can see this section of track's a little more torn up, so somebody, or maybe a few somebodies, have had a crack at driving up this, and you can see evidence of water erosion on the track as well. Still not what you would really call a difficult track. Now coming down here, we've got about 4 or 5 tracks intersecting. 3 on the far side, the one we came in on, plus another one to the hard left here. So that's West Humffray, Selwyn Track, West Humffray Road, and another one, White's Track, I believe. But yeah, had to check the map for that one, but to make sure that we were continuing on the West Humffray Road, which takes us down to the start of the Humffray River Track. Again, very typical of high country tracks here on the side of the hill, with a big drop off and working our way along the side of the range. Again, this is not what you'd consider a difficult track, so it's about a 7k run from the Mt Selwyn Road down to that intersection, and then from this intersection down to the start of the Humffray River Track, it's about another 9 kilometres. And this is a reasonably windy track, certainly near the start, as you work your way around one side of the hill to get to the other, but it's not what you would consider difficult, so I didn't show a lot of that. We're turning a hard left here onto the Humffray River Track. Now I realised there was no hope in heck that I was going to make that hard left, so drove up, and yes, we are going left, drove up here and turned around. So that's the East Riley Road there to the left. Done the full 180. I don't think Paul knew that's what I was doing. There's Dan and Luca, and yes, we really did turn left. So this is the actual start of the Humffray River Track. I've never driven this section of the Humffray River Track before, so I was keen to see what it was like. And we've actually got 9 kilometres here, and it is still called the Humffray River Track, but this 9 kilometre section doesn't get too close to a river till you get to the end of it. Probably why I've not driven this before, but again, it was really quite interesting just to see where that Humffray River Track actually starts, and check it out. You can see here, this is in pretty good nick, and we're making pretty good pace, probably sitting on about 30-40 k's an hour here, making quite good time. The only thing you really have to check your speed for is those washouts and humps to divert water off the track. They're reasonably steep, and you don't want to hit them going too fast at all. Working our way down the hill. At the end of this 9 kilometre section, knowing we're going to end up pretty much down in the valley where the Humffray River actually is, and then we will be on to the more usual Humffray River Track, although we've got about 3-4 k's before we get to the Water Spur Track. Which is where I've typically joined and left the Humffray River Track. So we're still working our way down here. Really wasn't having to do too much in the way of braking at all. The engine braking in the 76 really takes care of that. Does make a bit more engine noise doing that. Now, as you can see, we've got a critter on the track. Now, there's a lot of debate about exactly what this critter might be. Is it a small wild dog? What actually is it? The consensus ended up being that we think it's a fox. What a fox is doing out middle of the day is beyond me, and he must have been sunstruck because they don't normally run along the road in front of cars like this. But yeah, that's the only thing I can put it down to. This guy was a bit sunstruck. He was definitely trying to get away, but he wasn't doing the one thing that really would have ensured he got away, which is diverting off the track. But yeah, interested to hear what you guys think. The consensus was a fox. He's finally ducked into the bush there, as you can see, and made his way off the track. Just as we continue descending down. This bottom end of the Humffray River Track meets up with Riley's Track, which I've also never driven. Now, just across this bridge on the right hand side here where it says road closed, that's where Riley's Track comes in and meets up. So there is an old timber bridge there that apparently has been closed, must be deemed structurally unsound. Bit of a campsite here, and I was just hoping that these tracks through the grass here led somewhere and that we weren't going to find ourselves stuck at the end of the track. And sure enough, the closer I got here, the more well worn this track looked, and I could see what looked like the Humffray River. So after 9 kilometres on the Humffray River Track, we finally get a look at the Humffray River. Not very deep at this point. Here we are, parked in the first crossing of the Humffray River, coming in from the north. We got river in front of us, behind us, to the sides, everywhere. So this is our exit. So yeah, nice, easy exit. Pretty good nick, not particularly torn up or anything. So coming up out of here, we'll actually be wanting to turn left and continue south along the Humffray River Track. I actually turn right and park up because I want to leave room for the other guys, and also wanted to get the camera out and have a look at this bridge back up here, so just parked up out of the way. There's Dan in the Iron Emu coming through that little crossing. Luca in his GU patrol, making short work of it. Can give the tyres a good wash, if nothing else.
So there's the northern end of the Humffray River Track on the other side there, where we just came down, and obviously this bridge used to be in service but is now closed. Somebody's obviously done a load assessment on it. Little tributary of the Humffray River here.
Yeah, the bridge actually seemed pretty good to me, but you know, I might be the lightest guy in the world, but I'm still a lot lighter than a car, I guess. So from there we're pushing on south, so we've got about a 3 kilometre section here before we get to the point where the Water Spur track joins the Humffray River Track. So this is another 3 k's of track that I've never driven before, so always fun. So we've got Paul and his FJ leading off, Dan in the Iron Emu 90 Series Prado, and then me and Luca tucked in behind me. Always good fun to shuffle the order up sometimes. And I must admit, having somebody in front of you does sort of highlight some of the obstacles and gives you some info on how to approach it. So I never mind having somebody in front of me. So coming up here to another crossing of the Humffray River. As you can see, not a super deep crossing. This time of year, the water's not usually terribly deep, and it wasn't on this occasion. And the exit's in pretty good condition, nice and rocky, plenty of traction, and we're up and out of the river before you know it. Definitely dry conditions. You can see vehicles ahead of me throwing up a little bit of dust. And as this track is prone to do, just deviating away from the river, climbing up the bank a little bit before coming back to it. Sort of bird's eye view there of the track wrapping around this hill and making its way back down towards the river. Just coming up to where the Water Spur Track joins the Humffray River Track on the left there. So that's normally where I would be coming in and out of the Humffray River Track there, just on the left. And straight down here, I think we've got another river crossing before too long. Steep little drop just here. Dan took that nice and steady, just to make sure. You never know with a wagon how your rear departure angle is going to go. You know, particularly not having a lift in my case. So it never hurts to take those sections of track where you think the rear might make contact nice and slow and steady to minimise impact and damage. And yeah, just coming up on that next river crossing, first one after the Water Spur Track. Fairly well-worn entrance here, but not difficult, and the water's definitely way down much lower than I've seen it. So yeah, no issues with the crossing in the condition that it's in currently, and the exit is also in good condition. Now, I do get asked periodically whenever I post videos on the Humffray River Track, can I take a caravan? Can I take a camper van? Can I take this or that? Typically my answer is a resounding no. I wouldn't recommend it, and I guess, to be fair, that's kind of still my answer. I wouldn't recommend it. Now, not necessarily because of the crossings, but some of the very steep sections. Not so much this climb here, but more so the one after the Humffray River Hunters Lodge or River Shelter. Just letting Dan get ahead of me there in case he's going to spit any rocks out. But there's a couple of climbs, and it doesn't matter which way you go. There's a steep climb both sides and a steep descent both sides, depending which direction you're going. I think you'd struggle there with traction to pull something very heavy up. Now, having said that, we did pass on a section of this track a bit later. You can see here, like, this is a lot of exposed sort of hard clay and rock. And not towing anything, I didn't have any issues, but I think towing even up this section would be challenging. Now, as I said, we did meet some guys coming the other way. One of them was towing a little Conqueror camper trailer, not one of the big ones, one of the smaller ones, maybe a smidge bigger than a Patriot. But look, something around the size of a Patriot is probably all I would realistically suggest trying to tow on this track, and you'll see why. I mean, particularly if you've got open diffs like I've got, you'll see why when I post another video on this, if probably a few weeks' time, when my mate Kieran was down from northern New South Wales. So yeah, heading down, well-known section of the Humffray River Track here. These ruts have sort of developed over years, can be very slick, solid clay base. If there's any rain at all about, very, very slick, can be quite slippery. Nice and dry today, so not a concern. Dan's done a great job there spanning it. When you get down to the bottom, that middle section though, it doesn't really allow for you to continue doing that. So I've driven this many times. I've always had clearance for the ruts, so I've decided to just dive straight in and put the tyres in the rut. Now, this is probably the first time driving this track in the 76, so to be fair, I didn't know I was going to have clearance because all the other times have been in the padge, which is IFS, but we did have clearance on these ruts. Now, there's quite a chewed up section just down in front of Dan, and you can see he's got his front wheels there on a hard left-hand lock. He's trying to climb up out of those ruts and get around to the left-hand side and drive around that torn up section of track that way, which is never an easy feat. But the ruts are nice and dry today, so if he was ever going to have an opportunity to do that, now's probably the time. And you can see the front end is making a good go of lifting itself up out of the rut, but then it's fallen back in on him. And then he's managed to find a section where he could actually drive out and go around that torn up section of track. Nicely done. So I've decided to proceed, leaving my wheels in the wheel ruts, not trying to fight against them at all, and getting a closer look at this torn up section of track down here to figure out what I'm going to do. And I see my line there sort of spanning that ripped up section of track in the middle, getting the right hand tyres high on the bank there, and that worked fine. And there's a nice line just following that down along here. You can see a fair bit of track packing and building's been done when this track was somewhat softer and wetter, and that was the opportune time for me to cross over there. just avoiding Paul, making sure I don't pick him up on the way through. And here we are climbing another hill. You can see again plenty of evidence there of water erosion, but there's plenty of room on the right hand side here to hold my line till we get further up, and the erosion is less pronounced and I can move over and just drive in the center of the track. Of course, you can't go too far on the Humffray River Track without coming across the Humffray River. And here we are at yet another crossing. Some of these got reasonably steep or off-camber entrances. So Dan is just sorting out his line there and just asked me to move up a little bit to give him a little bit more room to manoeuvre rather than crowding him the way I was. So move back to give him that space to get his line the way he wanted it. And he's opted to sort of take the right hand side of the track there. See, he's still got a bit of a lean up, but then as he's working his way down, it's evening up nicely. And he's into the crossing. Nicely done. Paul's just across there on the other side. You can see his FJ sort of straight ahead through the bush there. Just make out the blue colour with the white roof. And Dan's across the river. So I've decided I'm going to have a crack at this left-hand line here. And you get to see the big flex on the 76. See that rear wheel? Already lifted.
Right, I'm just teetering here on two wheels, but yeah, sure, I'll wait.
Oh God, that 76, mate, it's found its nest.
So yeah, Dan was...
Is the back end flexing at all?
Dan was...
Look, from this angle, it looks as if the back wheel is just barely touching the ground. Yeah, by wobbling around like that, it's sort of, sort of just there.
So yeah, there's the back wheel coming off. So, I mean, there's stock leaf springs in the back, so flex is not really a thing, but yeah, just waiting for Dan to get set up with his camera to get the shot for me. And yeah, look, I can't wait to look at another suspension solution there that'll give me, look, 70 series aren't known for being flex beast, but I think we can do a little bit better than that. At least I hope we can. And Luke are coming across in the GU Patrol. Log there just at the entrance, and yeah, before not too long we're all mobile again and heading southbound on the Humffray River Track. Very dry and dusty, this track. And possibly you just heard that was Paul on the radio saying that water crossing is quite deep, and relatively speaking, yeah, this one does tend to be a little deeper than the others. Dan's just getting ready to make his approach. The entrance here is nice and rocky. And it does have that little bit of a hole in the middle. and yeah, relatively deeper than the others. Still not terribly deep. I think I came through this one a few years back when I was with Bruce with his 200 series, and it was nearly bottom deep on the page at that time. But still certainly deeper than the other ones, that's for sure. Halfway up the headlight there. Gives everything a nice wash. And the exit here, a couple of loose rocks there, and a little bit wet and slippery, having had a couple of vehicles already go up it. But nothing, a little bit of persuasion with the accelerator can't solve. One of those bends in the track that occur over time due to fallen trees. So you can see the old track slowly disappearing there, and this new diversion well and truly established. A few more years and you probably won't even see the old track anymore. And of course, another river crossing. Again, this one's got quite a good entrance and exit. Very easy to get across and back out the other side. A little bit of a sharp turn just as you exit, and a little bit off camber, but yeah, not what you'd call difficult. So we're just passing that Humffray River shelter now on the left. Those two tracks you just saw there head into that. And this begins the steep climb on the Humffray River Track when you're coming north-south. It's quite a long, steady climb. And it basically just starts after the shelter there and continues for nearly a kilometre from memory. About 900 metres. There are some flatter sections and steeper sections, but generally, yeah, you keep going up for the next 900 metres. We're all churning up a little bit of dust as the cars are working to pull themselves up this hill. And this is where I say, you know, pulling a camper trailer or caravan up here, if it was anything with a bit of weight, I think it'd be difficult. I think you'd struggle for traction, particularly if you didn't have good tyres. Anyway, look, as you'll sort of see what I'm getting at there when I edit and publish the video with Kieran. Some nice rocky sections there that do help with traction. Plenty of dust being churned up, and as I said, this hill just keeps giving and giving, going and going. 76 does tend to move a bit, not having a lot of flex in the suspension. Every time you crest the hill and you think you're there, you're not. You come around the corner and it just keeps going. Up and up. So yeah, as you can see there on the screen, it's about 170 metres vertically that you climb in 900 metres, which is from just past the shelter there to the top of the hill up here. So that's a pretty good gradient, 170 metres vertical over 900 metres of distance. Definitely a steady climb. Now this is the section, you can see the guys have pulled up, we've got guys coming the other way. This is the section where, as I said, we did a bit of shuffling here to let these guys pass and work it out, and one of them was towing one of the Conquerors. And they were getting, they seemed to be getting along okay. They'd obviously gotten up here to the high point, come up the hill on the other side. So yeah, look, just for comparison, so that 170 metre rise, that means over 900 metres, means for every 5.3 metres travelled, you go up 1 metre. So that's a pretty steady gradient, basically a 1 in 5 gradient for 900 metres, but keeping in mind there's sections that are steeper and flatter than that. And of course here we are crossing that river yet again. This one's had a bit of gravel piled up there at the entrance. Not sure whether Parks have done some work or we're getting ready to do some work on this one, because I don't recall that being there previously.
Gonna have a look at the line on this one.
And just as Luca was coming through there, you can probably see that fairly sharp looking rock near the exit. You've always got to watch out for them. You know, if your tyres don't have really good sidewalls, those rocks can be a bit of a hazard. So yeah, Paul's just jumped out to have a look at the line on this crossing. Probably more so the entrance than anything. If I remember correctly, this one has the option of a right-hand line that's off camber, and then a centre line that drops in fairly steep. I could be wrong, but I'll just have to check. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure this is the one. I think Paul's gone largely straight down the middle there. He does have a very good departure angle in that FJ though, both the approach and departure angles. And I know Dan in the Prado probably doesn't have quite as good departure angle, and I certainly don't in the 76 without a lift. Dan's at least running a 2-inch Petters lift in the Iron Emu Prado. I still don't have a lift in the 76 at this time. So Dan's opted for that right-hand line, which you can see is a little off camber there, and as he dropped down, that right-hand rear wheel, I think, might have even lifted just ever so slightly. So you can see this is quite off camber. It's been this way for a few years. It is a little bit tricky to get up. And I'm just sort of having a look at this and assessing what line I'm going to take. And I have decided I am going to take that far right-hand line, because I've driven up and down that several times, even though it's off camber and it feels a bit gnarly. I've done it a few times, so I feel okay about doing it. And again, you can see much the same as Dan. As I've gone down there, that back wheel has lifted ever so slightly.
That's one way down, Luca.
And it did feel a bit interesting, as you can tell from...
Jeez, you made that look interesting. I'm getting
from that comment. So yeah, Luca's decided to jump out and have a look. He's not sure there was a lot of wisdom in the approach that I've taken, and he could well be right. So yeah, quite a long crossing this one, working our way down the river, slow and steady here. Certainly not deep at the moment, but the river's got a good flow. And the exit here is a little wet, but generally in fairly good nick. I've just approached that a little too slowly on my highway terrain tyres and didn't have enough traction to get up there. So just reversing up a little so I can give it a little bit more persuasion to just pop up. So yeah, second time's the charm, a little bit more gusto, and yeah, we're straight up. Times like that I certainly do notice. the tyres. So here's Luca doing that one. He's taken the centre line, knows he's got a good departure angle, and coming down the centre line, that keeps the vehicle a lot more stable and a lot more level. And as long as your departure angle is up to the job, easy peasy. And coming down the river, and up and out of the exit. Now, if you saw me standing there filming and you're wondering why that footage isn't in this video, that's because somebody didn't push the record button. Happens. That's the horn, and yes, it works. So yeah, around the corner and into another crossing. You can see one of the small trees has sort of fallen down and blocked the direct line, so you do have to sweep out around this one a little bit. But it's not deep, and it's a pretty easy exit as well, so nothing to be terribly concerned about. Always enjoy the Humffray River Track. It's a nice drive. Not usually terribly difficult, but enough of a challenge with some of those entrances and exits, particularly probably more so going the other way. So coming from Wonnangatta and heading north instead of coming from the north heading south the way we are, I think it's probably a little more challenging. But either way, it's always a fun drive and very scenic, and the huge number of river crossings certainly keep it interesting. So another one here with an entrance or exit that's reasonably torn up, but a lot easier going down and in than it is coming up. And I do think that gravel on the far bank has been added by Parks to assist with stabilising. Again, not terribly deep. Just deep enough for the bullboy to make a bit of a splash. And we're up and out. And again, this exit is in similar condition to the entrance. It's a little bit rutted, but there is a line there on the right hand side that I was able to find and take and climb up and out. Now, this little pinch is the last little stream crossing, and you can see very close to my rear bar hitting there. It's quite steep down and back up again, and just spat out a few rocks there climbing up and out. And pulling in here to the parking area, which is the start of the Hart Spur Track, which is next on the list. But we're going to leave this video here for now, guys. So thanks for watching, particularly if you've watched all the way to the end. Please like the video, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please think about subscribing.
We are at the end of the Humffray River Track, and everybody's ready for the 5 o'clock Hart Spur Track, because we love 5 o'clock tracks. I take all care and no responsibility for this track, because the person who recommended it is not here.
So literally it was 5 o'clock and we're starting Hart Spur, and we still had to go down Tea Tree Spur on the other side. So, you know, great planning by the trip leader. As I said, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll pick up from here in the next video and continue on with this epic trip. So see you then. Thanks, guys.